The plasma bolt seared past Commander Vex Korath's helmet, close enough to fog his visor. Around him, the twisted wreckage of humanity's greatest battleships drifted like metal graveyards against the void. Earth's final defense, Fleet 300 vessels that had taken decades to build reduced to scrap in 6 hours. "Sir, we've lost contact with all remaining squadrons," reported Lieutenant Nea Velos, her voice steady, despite the chaos erupting around their command bridge. The Defiant's Edge, humanity's last dreadnought, shuddered under another barrage from the Vorthok Armada. Vex stared at the tactical display, watching red dots, enemy ships swarming like angry wasps around the few remaining blue specks of human resistance. 2 billion souls on Earth below, counting on him. His jaw clenched beneath the neural interface crown that connected his mind directly to the ship's weapons systems. He'd been engineered for this, bred in the military laboratories of New Geneva, his emotions surgically dampened, his capacity for attachment chemically suppressed. The perfect weapon. Vorthok flagship is moving into bombardment position over the eastern seaboard, Naya continued, her fingers dancing across holographic controls. Estimated time to planetary annihilation, 14 minutes. The bridge crew looked to him with desperate hope. They didn't know what he knew, that High Command had one final card to play. The Lazarus Protocol, a weapon so devastating it would tear a hole in space-time itself, potentially destroying everything within 3 light years, including Earth. Sir Naya's green eyes met his. There was something in her gaze he'd never understood: warmth, connection, something that made his chest tight in ways his conditioning shouldn't allow. She'd been assigned to his ship only 6 months ago. A brilliant tactical officer who somehow made the crew laugh, even during their darkest moments. The communication array crackled. "Commander Korath, this is Admiral Haynes. Authorization code Lazarus 77 Alpha. You know what to do." Vex's hand hovered over the sealed control panel. One button press would activate the device buried in the ship's core, a quantum singularity bomb that would consume the Vorthok fleet, Earth, and every human soul he'd sworn to protect. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. It was the first lesson they'd taught him in the enhancement labs. Vex. Naya's voice was soft, using his given name instead of his rank. There has to be another way. He turned to look at her fully. In the red emergency lighting, her face seemed to glow with an inner strength that his enhancement protocols couldn't categorize or suppress. "The calculations are clear, Lieutenant. We cannot win this engagement through conventional means. Then we find an unconventional one." She stepped closer, and he caught the scent of her hair, somehow still carrying traces of Earth's jasmine despite months in recycled ship's air. "What if we used the Lazarus device as a containment field instead of a weapon? Channel its energy to create a dimensional barrier." His enhanced mind ran the calculations instantly. The probability of success is less than 12%, but it's not zero. Her hand touched his arm, and through his tactical suit, he felt warmth that his conditioning had never prepared him for. 12% to save everyone we love. Isn't that worth trying? Love. The word resonated strangely in his consciousness. He'd been told love was weakness, inefficiency, a liability in warfare. Yet, as he looked at Nayat, the hope in her eyes, at the way she believed in impossible odds, something fundamental shifted inside him. Around them, the bridge crew waited. Below them, Earth's cities sparkled in the darkness, unaware that their fate balanced on the edge of a single decision. And beside him, this woman who spoke of love as if it were the most natural thing in the universe. Vex Korath, humanity's perfect weapon, made his choice. "All hands, this is the commander." Vex's voice echoed through the ship's corridors as he opened the general comm. "Prepare for emergency protocol deviation. Engineering, I need every available power cell routed to the Lazarus core. Science division, calculate containment field parameters for dimensional barrier generation." The bridge erupted in controlled chaos. Naya's hands flew over her console, pulling up quantum mechanics equations that would have taken most officers hours to comprehend. Vex watched her work, noting the precise movements, the way her brow furrowed in concentration. His enhanced neural pathways, designed to process tactical data, found themselves cataloging these details with unprecedented clarity. "Sir, High Command is demanding immediate confirmation of Lazarus activation," reported Communications Officer Cale Thorne. "They're threatening to activate it remotely. Tell them we're experiencing communication difficulties," Vex replied, his fingers already working to sever the quantum entanglement link that connected their systems to Earth's command structure. It was treason, technically, but looking at Naya's determined expression, he found he didn't care. "Vex, I'm reading massive energy fluctuations from the Vorthok flagship," she said, her voice tight with concern. "They're charging some kind of planet-killer weapon. We have maybe 8 minutes before they can fire." He nodded, his mind racing through possibilities. The Vorthok were an ancient species, their technology based on consuming stellar energy. They'd already drained 3 suns in their expansion across the galaxy, leaving dead systems in their wake. Humanity had been their next target, not for their worlds, but for their star. "What makes humans different?" he asked suddenly, the question surprising even himself. Naya looked up from her calculations. "What do you mean?" "The Vorthok have destroyed 47 civilizations. Some were more advanced than us, had larger fleets, better technology. What makes us think we can succeed where they failed?" For a moment, her hands stilled on the controls. Then she smiled, that same inexplicable warmth that had been disrupting his neural patterns for months. "Because we don't fight alone. Every human who has ever lived, who has ever loved, who has ever hoped for something better, they're all here with us. The Vorthok consume stars, but humans, we kindle them." The ship shuddered as another plasma salvo struck their shields. Warning. Lights flashed across the bridge as primary power fluctuated. In the tactical display, the Vorthok fleet continued its inexorable advance, over 3,000 ships strong against their single, battered vessel. "Field calculations complete," Naya announced. "But Vex, the power requirements, will need to overload the Lazarus core by 300%. The containment might not hold, and if it fails, we create a black hole that consumes this entire star system." His conditioning whispered that this was acceptable losses, better than allowing the Vorthok to spread further. But as he watched Naya's face, saw the absolute trust in her eyes, something else spoke louder. Something that had been growing stronger. Every day, he'd served alongside her. "There's another option," he said slowly. "The enhancement protocols in my neural crown, they include a direct interface with quantum computing systems. I could link directly to the Lazarus core, use my consciousness as a regulator." "That would kill you," she said immediately. "The quantum feedback alone would burn out my neural pathways." "Yes, but it would give us the precision control we need." He turned to face her fully. "Naya, I need you to understand something. I was created to be a weapon. I've never known what it means to hope, to dream, to—" He paused, the word catching in his throat, "to love. But these past months, watching you, learning from you, you've shown me there's more to existence than just surviving." Her eyes widened. "Vex, no. There has to be another way." "Sometimes," he said, reaching out to touch her face with surprising gentleness, "the greatest victory comes from choosing who we save, not who we destroy." The ship lurched as another barrage found its mark. On the display, the Vorthok planet killer was reaching critical charge levels. Earth's cities sparkled below them, unaware that their next few minutes might be their last. Vex began connecting the neural interface cables to his crown, each link sending cascades of data through his consciousness. He could feel the vast, hungry energy of the Lazarus core, waiting to be unleashed. "Naya," he said, his voice already beginning to change, as the quantum field integrated with his neural patterns. When this is over, will you tell them? Will you tell them that humanity's weapon learned to love? She gripped his hand tightly. I'll tell them, but I'll also tell them that you're coming back. Because that's what love does, brings people home. As Vex initiated the connection, feeling his consciousness expand to encompass the ship's entire quantum matrix, he held on to that promise. Love brings people home. Maybe it was time for humanity's perfect weapon to learn what home really meant. The moment Vex's neural crown connected fully to the Lazarus core, reality shattered around him. His consciousness exploded outward, touching every atom of the ship, every quantum fluctuation in the surrounding space. He could feel the crew's heartbeats, their fear, their desperate hope. Most overwhelming of all, he could feel Naya's presence, a bright star of determination burning beside his expanding awareness. Vex, can you hear me? Her voice reached him through the quantum foam, distorted but clear. I can hear everything, he replied, though his physical mouth no longer moved. His words manifested directly in the ship's communication system. The Vorthok fleet, their power signatures, the gravitational fluctuations from their planet killer. I can feel Earth's rotation, the solar wind, the heartbeat of every human below us. Through his expanded senses, he perceived the Vorthok flagship, completing its weapon charge. The device was massive, a stellar core extractor, designed to drain Sol's nuclear fire in minutes. But now, with his consciousness merged with the Lazarus field, he could see something the tactical computers had missed. Naya, their weapon, it's not just a planet killer. It's a star killer. They're going to drain our sun. Can you stop it? Vex felt the quantum field respond to his will, bending space-time around the ship. The sensation was intoxicating and terrifying, godlike power, flowing through what had once been merely human consciousness. I can create the barrier. But Naya, I need you to help me remember something. What it feels like to be human. As the Vorthok weapon began its firing sequence, Vex reached out with the Lazarus field, wrapping reality around their intention like a shield. Space-time twisted, creating a dimensional membrane between the enemy fleet and Earth. The stellar drain beam struck the barrier and held, but the strain was enormous. Vex felt his consciousness fragmenting under the pressure, pieces of his identity scattering across quantum dimensions. His enhancement protocols screamed warnings: neural cascade failure imminent, personality matrix destabilizing, consciousness dissolution in progress. Vex, Naya's voice cut through the chaos. Stay with me. Remember the night watch rotation. How you always checked the crew quarters at 0300 to make sure everyone was safe. Memory flashed through his scattered awareness, walking the ship's corridors, noting Ensign Merrick's tendency to sleepwalk, adjusting Lieutenant Torres's blanket when she fell asleep at her post. Acts of care he dismissed as mere efficiency, optimization. Remember teaching me to use the targeting systems? Naya continued. How patient you were when I kept missing the simulator targets. Another memory, standing behind her at the gunnery console, his hand guiding hers on the controls. The moment when she'd finally hit the bullseye and turned to smile at him, the first time his neural conditioning had faltered, allowing him to smile back. The barrier held, but barely. Through his quantum senses, Vex could feel the Vorthok fleet repositioning, preparing to overload their weapon. He had minutes before the barrier collapsed. There's something else, he told her, his consciousness stabilizing around the memories she'd helped him recall. I can see their command structure through the quantum field. The Vorthok aren't just conquerors, they're refugees. Their original star died millennia ago. They've been consuming other suns, trying to replace what they lost. That doesn't excuse what they've done to 47 civilizations. No, Vex agreed, but it means they can be reasoned with. Now, what if instead of destroying them, we showed them another way? Through the quantum field, he reached out to the Vorthok flagship, his consciousness touching theirs across the void. What he found surprised him, not the cold, logical minds he'd expected, but beings consumed by an ancient grief. They were dying, their species slowly fading as each consumed star provided diminishing returns. Vorthok command, he broadcast, his words carrying across space through quantum entanglement. I am Vex Korath of the human vessel Defiance Edge. I offer parley. The response came as a burst of alien thought patterns. You cannot comprehend our necessity, small meat creature. We require stellar fuel to sustain our people. Your sun will serve. There is another way, Vex replied, drawing on his expanded awareness to show them something impossible, the quantum signature of the Lazarus field itself. This technology can create pocket dimensions, artificial spaces where matter and energy follow different rules. Instead of consuming existing stars, you could create new ones. The alien thoughts paused, analyzing the data he'd transmitted. Impossible. Matter cannot be created from void, not matter. Energy patterns, quantum fluctuations, given structure and purpose. As he spoke, Vex began to understand something profound about the Lazarus device. It wasn't just a weapon, it was a creation tool, capable of writing new laws of physics into reality itself. But maintaining the barrier while communicating across dimensional space was tearing his consciousness apart. He could feel Naya's presence beside him, her hand on his physical form, but his sense of self was dissolving into quantum probability clouds. Vex, she whispered, come back to me. Don't lose yourself in there. I'm trying, he managed. But I don't know how to hold on to who I am when I can feel everything, everyone. How do you stay yourself when you're connected to infinity? Her answer came soft but certain. You remember why you chose to love instead of hate. You hold on to the moments that made you human instead of just a weapon. And in that instant, as the Vorthok fleet prepared for one final assault, and his consciousness scattered across dimensional barriers, Vex Korath understood what she meant. Love wasn't just an emotion, it was an anchor, a way of choosing meaning in an infinite cosmos. It was also, he realized, humanity's greatest weapon. The revelation hit Vex like a quantum shockwave. As his consciousness touched the collective pain of the Vorthok species, their endless hunger, their fear of extinction, their desperate flight across the galaxy, he began to see the true scope of what humanity faced. Not conquerors, but survivors. Not monsters, but beings who had forgotten how to hope. Naya, he said, his voice echoing through both the ship's systems and the quantum field itself. I need you to trust me completely. What I'm about to do, ... It might be the most human thing I've ever attempted. Through his expanded awareness, he felt her nod. I trust you. Whatever you need to do. The Vorthok fleet was repositioning for a concentrated assault that would shatter his barrier. He had perhaps 90 seconds before they fired. But instead of strengthening his defenses, Vex did something that violated every strategic protocol he'd ever learned. He opened a communication channel directly into his own consciousness, inviting the Vorthok command mind to experience human memory. What trickery is this? Came the alien thought, accompanied by what felt like psychic claws trying to tear his awareness apart. No trickery, Vex replied, even as he felt his neural pathways burning under the strain. Understanding, see what I see, feel what I feel, and then he showed them Naya, not just her image, but the memory of watching her care for a wounded crewman during their last battle. The memory of her organizing a birthday celebration for the ship's youngest officer, somehow finding real chocolate in the depths of their supply lockers. The memory of her sitting beside Ensign Kairos during his night terrors, humming an old Earth lullaby until he could sleep again. The Vorthok consciousness recoiled, confused. These actions serve no tactical purpose. They waste resources. Why does she perform them? Because she loves them, Vex explained, sharing more memories the crew's loyalty to Naya. Their willingness to follow her orders, not from fear, but from genuine affection. Humans don't just survive. Vorthok command, We thrive. We create meaning from chaos, hope from despair. We take care of each other, not because it's efficient, but because it's right. Love is weakness. We learned this truth when our star died. The strong consumed the weak. This is the only law. But even as the alien mind rejected his words, Vex could feel something else in their consciousness, a buried memory of what the Vorthok had been before their sun failed. Artists, philosophers, beings who had once created beauty for its own sake. The stellar hunger had changed them, stripped away everything except the drive to survive. What if you didn't have to choose? Vex asked, showing them the theoretical framework he'd grasped through his connection to the Lazarus field. What if survival and love could coexist? He began to demonstrate, using the quantum field to create something unprecedented. Instead of a barrier or a weapon, he wove the energy into a pattern of pure creation, a miniature star, no larger than a space station but burning with clean renewable fusion fire, not extracted from dying stellar cores, but built from quantum vacuum fluctuations and sustained by the same force that held his consciousness together. The choice to create rather than destroy. The artificial star blazed to life in the space between the fleets, its light visible from Earth below. Through the quantum field, Vex felt the collective gasp of both human and Vorthok observers. He'd just written new physics into reality itself. Impossible, the Vorthok mind whispered, but he could feel their amazement, their desperate hope. How do you maintain the fusion cascade without stellar mass gravity? Love, Vex said simply. The same force that holds atoms together, that binds humans to each other, that makes us choose hope over despair. The universe isn't just physics and chemistry, it's patterns of connection, networks of care that extend across space and time. You've been trying to survive by taking, but humans, we survive by giving. The artificial star pulsed brighter, its energy radiating across both fleets. But the strain of maintaining it while holding the barrier was catastrophic. Vex felt his consciousness beginning to fragment, pieces of his identity scattering across dimensional space. His connection to his physical body grew tenuous. Vex, Naya's voice cut through the quantum noise. Your neural patterns are destabilizing. You're losing cohesion. I know, he managed. But if I can show them the way, if I can prove that creation is stronger than consumption, ... The Vorthok fleet had stopped firing. Through his fading awareness, he could sense heated debate among their command hierarchy. Some wanted to study the artificial star, to learn its secrets. Others insisted on completing their mission to drain soul, and the fewer, growing fewer, beginning to remember what they had lost in their millennia of stellar vampirism. Human Vex Karath came a new thought pattern, older and more complex than the military commander he'd been speaking with. I am Nethius Vainter, keeper of the ancient ways. If what you show us is true, if stars can be born from intention rather than stolen from the universe, our people could end their exile. We could stop running. Yes, Vex whispered, his consciousness now scattered across light years of space, held together only by his determination to complete this impossible bridge between species. But I need you to understand this isn't just technology, it's philosophy. You have to choose to build instead of tear down. You have to remember how to love. Love, the ancient Vorthok mind echoed, and in that repetition, Vex heard something he'd never expected: wonder. Show us, human. Show us what we have forgotten. As his awareness finally began to collapse, pulled apart by forces beyond even enhanced human endurance, Vex reached out one last time through the quantum field, not to the Vorthok, but to Naya, whose presence had been his anchor through this entire impossible ordeal. I'm sorry, he told her. I don't think I can find my way back to myself. The memories, the connections, they're all dissolving. Then I'll come find you, she said, and through his fragmenting consciousness, he felt her hands on his physical form, her voice in his fading awareness. You taught me that love brings people home. Time to prove it works both ways. Naya's hands moved across the quantum interface console with desperate precision. Around her, the bridge crew watched in stunned silence as their commander's physical body remained motionless. His consciousness scattered across dimensional space like light through a prism. The artificial star he'd created still burned between the fleets. Its impossible radiance, a testament to what human will could achieve when guided by love rather than fear. "Lieutenant, his neural patterns are fragmenting beyond recognition," reported Chief Medical Officer Draxton Reeves, his voice tight with concern. "Brain activity is approaching quantum decoherence. We're losing him." "No," Naya said firmly, her fingers dancing across holographic controls she'd never been trained to use. "I'm not losing him. Not when he's finally learned what it means to be human." Through the ship's sensors, she could see the Vorthok fleet holding position, their weapons powered down, for the first time since the battle began. Several of their ships had moved closer to the artificial star, their science vessels conducting intensive scans. But the real breakthrough was happening on a level deeper than technology, in the space between species where understanding could bloom. Naya came, Vex's voice through the quantum field, weak and distorted. "I can feel myself dissolving. The memories that make me who I am, they're scattering across space-time. I can't hold on to them." "Then don't," she replied, her hands now working to modify the ship's secondary neural interface. "Let them go. But remember, you are not just your memories. You are the choices you make, the love you give, the hope you kindle in others. Those things exist in the quantum foam itself. They're part of the universe now." She began connecting herself to the interface, preparing to dive into the quantum field after him. It was madness. Her unenhanced human brain would never survive the kind of expanded consciousness that was tearing Vex apart. But she'd been studying the Lazarus field for months, and she'd noticed something the designers had missed. The quantum matrix responded not just to neural patterns, but to emotional resonance. And if there was one thing she understood better than anyone, it was the frequency of Vex Korath's heart. "Naya, what are you doing?" Draxton demanded. "You can't interface with a quantum field without enhancement protocols. The feedback will kill you." "Maybe," she admitted, feeling the neural crown settle over her head. "But love isn't logical, Draxton. It's quantum. It exists in superposition until observed, and it entangles particles across impossible distances. If Vex can learn to love, then I can learn to navigate quantum space." She initiated the connection, and reality exploded around her consciousness. But instead of the overwhelming expansion Vex had experienced, she found herself moving through the quantum foam like a diver through familiar waters. Her unenhanced mind couldn't process the vast scope of space-time, but it could recognize patterns of connection, threads of causality that linked heart to heart across the cosmos. And there, scattered like stars across the dimensional void, she found the fragments of Vex Korath's consciousness. "Found you?" she whispered, her awareness touching his scattered identity. "Time to come home, Naya." His response came as a burst of gratitude and wonder. "How are you here? How are you surviving the quantum field?" "Because I'm not trying to control it," she explained, gathering the pieces of his memory with gentle care. "I'm just following the connections. The love you've learned to feel, it's created quantum entanglement between us. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance, but poets have a better name for it. What's that? Soulmates." As she spoke, she began weaving his scattered consciousness back together, using the quantum threads of connection that bound them. His memories of their first meeting, his growing understanding of human emotion, his choice to save rather than destroy, all of it came together like a symphony of identity returning to coherence. But as his consciousness reformed, she felt her own beginning to strain. The unenhanced human brain wasn't designed for quantum manipulation. Neural pathways were burning out, and she could feel her own memories beginning to fade. "Naya, stop." Vex's voice was stronger now, more like himself. You're destroying yourself to save me. Worth it, she managed, though the quantum field was now a maze of pain and dissolving identity. Besides, you're not the only one who learned something about love. I finally understand what it means to choose someone else's happiness over your own survival. No. His consciousness, now largely restored, reached out to embrace hers in the quantum foam. Love isn't sacrifice, Naya. It's partnership. It's choosing to face the impossible together. And then he did something that should have been impossible. Even for his enhanced mind, he began sharing the load of her neural breakdown. Using his quantum connection to the Lazarus field to support her failing brain patterns, the pain that had been consuming her divided between them, becoming manageable together. They turned their combined awareness toward the space between the fleets, where the artificial star continued to burn. The Vorthok had been studying it for nearly an hour now, their ancient keeper transmitting increasingly excited reports back to their home fleet. Human partners. Came Nethi's Vainter's thought pattern, rich with wonder. We have analyzed your creation. The fusion cascade is sustained not by gravity or magnetic containment, but by what our instruments can only describe as intentional harmonics. The star continues to exist because it chooses to exist. That's the secret of human technology, Naya replied, her consciousness intertwined with Vex's in the quantum field. We don't just build things, we inspire them. We give them purpose, meaning, the will to endure. Every human ship, every human city, every human heart beats with the same rhythm, the choice to create rather than destroy. This changes everything, the ancient alien mind whispered. Our people have wandered the galaxy for millennia, consuming stars because we believed scarcity was the only truth. But if stars can be born from intention, if matter and energy respond to love itself, then you can go home, Vex said, his voice now steady and strong. Not to your dead system, but to a new understanding of what home means. You can stop running and start building. You can remember what you were before hunger consumed you. The quantum field pulsed with possibility as two species stood at the edge of a new era. But the real miracle wasn't the artificial star, or the dimensional barriers, or even the impossible bridge between alien minds. The real miracle was that humanity's perfect weapon had learned to love, and in teaching that love to others, had discovered what it truly meant to be human. The real miracle was that humanity's perfect weapon had learned to love, and in teaching that love to others, had discovered what it truly meant to be human. 3 months later, Vex Korath stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Harmony Station, watching as the fifth artificial star blazed to life in the void between Earth and the Vorthok settlement fleet. The starbirth process had become almost routine. Now human consciousness interfacing with Vorthok quantum manipulation techniques, creating fusion cores that burned with the light of pure intention. The keepers are calling it collaborative stellar genesis, Naya said, joining him at the viewport. Her neural crown had been removed weeks ago. The quantum interface no longer necessary now that they'd established stable communication protocols between species, but the connection between them remained, strengthened by their shared journey through impossible space. And what are the humans calling it? Vex asked, noting how her reflection in the transparent aluminum seemed to glow with inner light. His enhanced vision could detect the subtle quantum signatures that still surrounded her residual effects from their time merged in the quantum field. She was different now, as was he, more connected to the universe around them, more aware of the threads that bound all consciousness together. A miracle, she said simply, though the scientists prefer applied quantum empathy. Below them, the first Vorthok civilian vessels were taking position around the new star. For the first time in millennia, they would harvest stellar energy through symbiosis rather than parasitism, using human-taught techniques to channel fusion fire without destroying the source. The artificial stars would burn for millions of years, sustained not by gravity, but by the collective will of both species to choose creation over destruction. The military council is still debating whether to remove my enhancements, Vex said, his hand finding hers. They're concerned that my emotional compromise makes me unsuitable for command. Naya laughed, the sound carrying across the station's corridors. Emotional compromise. You saved 2 civilizations and created a new form of physics. I'd say your emotions are working just fine. Speaking of which, he said, turning to face her fully, there's something I need to tell you. When we were merged, in the quantum field, I saw something, a possibility thread extending into the future. What kind of possibility? His enhanced mind could have recited the exact probability calculations, the quantum mechanics that governed potential futures. Instead, he chose to speak from the heart he'd finally learned to trust. Children, not just human or Vorthok, but something new. Beings who carry the best of both species, who understand instinctively what we had to learn through pain. The next step in evolution, not biological, but spiritual. Naya's eyes widened. Is that ... Is that what you want? A future where love literally shapes reality. It's what I choose, he corrected gently. There's a difference. Want implies need, dependency. Choice implies freedom. And I choose to build a future where consciousness and compassion are the dominant forces in the universe. Through the station's quantum communication array, they could hear the daily reports from across human space. The artificial star technology was spreading rapidly, with joint human-Vorthok teams establishing new stellar nurseries in dead systems throughout the galaxy. Species that had hidden from the Vorthok for millennia were cautiously emerging, drawn by the promise of renewable stellar energy and the radical idea that scarcity wasn't the universe's default state. The Keepers want to establish a joint academy. Naya report hash, he didn't know how to love until she showed him how.